So Judy Russell is next. She's an Army brat who spent 9 years of her life growing up in Europe. That's nice. She started sewing at 12 and began quilting 10 years ago. She's a member of the Bullock Hall Quilt Guild and the East Cobb Quilt Guild in Atlanta, where she and her husband lived for 30 years. Both groups have annual shows, and Judy had pieces in several of them. Her favorite fabric designers are Kate Fassett, Tula Pink, and Allison Glass. During non-quilting time, she is a practicing CPA with clients in states all across the U.S. She and her husband moved to Port Orange in 2022 and love the community, and we love having you here.
Thank you. Well, compared to Mindy's novel, mine would be called a short story. My sister and I started sewing when we were teenagers because, like Aurora said, we lived on an army base in Europe most of our growing up in school years, and so we didn't have access to Target or any of most of the clothes we got were mail orders. So it was kind of a necessity to learn to sew, and so I spent a lot of time with clothing, and then it transferred into household things like drapes and all of the things you do, and then I got tired of the life of moving around, but my sister didn't, and so she worked for the State Department her career. And when she was living in Denmark, she calls me up and she says, "Oh, I got the best sewing machine." She bought a Bernina while she was in Europe, and so of course I couldn't let my sister outdo me. So and she had gotten into quilting by that time because a lot of quilts in Europe are handmade, and she really enjoyed that. So this quilt is probably the second quilt that I ever made. I made it for my mom. It was on sunflowers.
And get closer in the
Judy,
mic.
could you get a little closer to the mic?
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that one was made for my mom for her 87th birthday in 2008. You can see it's really basic, but it was the first quilt, or it was the first piece I had done that was large. And my sister by this time had bought a mid-arm, and we quilted it together on her mid-arm. So I was really, really happy. And then my mom passed away in 2012, but I love her quilt, so it reminds me of her.
Very nice.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sounds like that commercial. So after that, I got interested in stars.
Hands up there.
Stars and
Well,
quilted
don't fall.
stars. And my husband calls this the Game of Thrones quilt. It just evolved into making more elaborate stars, and so but you can tell the colors are sort of muted, and didn't really get into color technology or a love of bright colors until I took a class and did this quilt. And it's really just, the whole quilt is just the fabrics. I mean, the message that they convey. And so, I've forgotten the name of the quilt actually, but
Is that cave or?
no, it's not cave. It's not cave, but that led me to finding cave.
What year did you make this one?
What year?
This was done in 2015.
Oh,
Nice.
So you can see they went from basic to experimenting to going a little bright.
That's really pretty.
So this was I have made this quilt probably 12 times. When people come in my house, I have it hanging over my desk, and I wind up having to make another one. So this is the latest, and of course this is all cave. And my friends in the guild, not only my guild, but my sister's guild, learned that I like bright things. And so one of her friends was on a trip down to North Carolina, and there was a mill that was closing. And so she stopped in hopes of finding some bargains. And she saw this and she thought of me. She paid 25 cents for this. I have to date done 6 quilts with And the latest quilt, I brought this to show you because it's headed for an auction this fall. I call it Repurposed Stars because it's for an organization that sponsors rehabilitation for addictions and Metro Atlanta Recovery and Rehabilitation. And they do an auction, so the last 6 years I've had a quilt auction out there. And I thought, well, what better to do than to take something that nobody wants and make something that we can raise some money for. It's a silent auction. They have a big dinner in November and auction on the quilt. And that's the back.
Yes, the back. This is beautiful. It's the front.
Very nice thread.
Oh, Linda Race quilted this for me, and she used variegated thread, which adds another dimension to me. Really nice. So that's my story. Like I say, compared to Mindy's, it's a short story. It's a wonderful story.
Laura, Judy, back with that quilt piece, or is it one piece? It's one piece. Oh, wow.